Posture, good old posture. Okay, let's just stand up. All I want you to do is stand still with your eyes closed for approximately a minute. That's all. Okay. All right, so here I go. I'm not going to time you. I'm just going to kind of do a feel of about a minute or so. And just stand still. Scan through the body, just making sure you're not, gripping your glutes or anything like that. And please do close your eyes. Okay, go ahead and open your eyes. All right, did anybody notice that it's pretty challenging to stand perfectly still? Yeah, so we have something built, again, our brilliant design, built into our system that's referred to as postural sway. And you kind of do, no matter how much you try to stay still, there's going to be this constant little sway. Now, the reason for that, oh, great, Tanya, yeah. The reason for that, remember the picture on the slideshow of the little tiny muscles that were, say, vertebrae to vertebrae? Okay, all those little tiny muscles, which you really gonna have a heck of a hard time trying to voluntarily do something. So if I said, okay, ladies and gentlemen there, let's contract the multifidi between T11 and T12. Okay, go. And you'd be like, what? No, no connection, because they're just our little tiny, they're like the little adjusters. Okay, now they behave like good old stretch energy. And that is, they need and they want a little bit of movement and response, a little bit of movement and response built right in, not because we suck at being on balance, but because we're not supposed to be still, because this is what keeps the return of the energy going. That's what keeps us efficient, is the fact that we're always distributing the work and go, okay, this side, you do it. Oh, no, you do it. Oh, no, you do it. You do it. No side gets tired because it just keeps moving. So this idea of constant movement, little micro movements, like suddenly doing my hands here, almost like fish swimming through, just these tiny little movements to keep it going. That's what keeps it dynamic and alive. So when I think of that and realize that those muscles are designed for that without voluntarily, good conscious control, then I better be careful that I'm not overriding them with voluntarily conscious controlled big muscles. So I'm going to trust my dynamic stability to brilliantly do its job. Now, here's an interesting thing that I will admit I have not done, but boy, oh boy, as I was writing this, I'm going, I think I'm going to try it. And that is, rather than continually always training on a flat surface, which is man-made and not how our bodies were meant to be, what if we were to challenge the terrain a little bit? Okay, so if this is what's meant to happen to keep everything dynamically alive, what is another way to make it so that I don't mistakenly hold? Let's say I'm doing an adage in the center. I'm just doing a nice développé a second. And what do most dancers do? Hold their breath, hang on for dear life, and they get rid of the resiliency of their spine. They get rid of the dynamic action of those little muscles. I go, wouldn't it be interesting? And I don't know if you'd have something you could do. I've got like a little towel here, just a little face cloth, and I could put one layer, I could fold it over, I could do more. What if I just stuck a towel under my heel? It was like I was out, not on a perfect flat surface, but I was just a little like this. So see if you've got something you can stand on. It could even be like a little thin book or something. So don't stand on it yet. Just hop on up and do like a nice, and you're not out too impressed or anything, just do like a développé to the side. What's it like? What do you tend to do if you're doing a développé? Are you holding, or are you letting the fact that, of course, there's counterbalance to that leg? Now, how different would it be if I were to challenge my system the way it was designed and knows to be responding three-dimensionally? And so maybe I'm going to put a towel under my heel, and I'm going to try that. And I go, oh, that feels different. and my little muscles in my spine go, oh, hello, okay, we got something different to deal with. Try that a few more times with it under your heel. So this isn't the same as you wearing like heel teacher shoes, by the way. Okay, I was like, oh, that's a little different. Okay, then just move yourself so now you've got your toes on it. So now you're on this tiny incline, like I was doing a développé walking up a hill just a little bit. Oh, that feels different. Oh, I got to adjust a little differently. What if you put it only on your outer edge, so the pinky toe edge, and I tried doing it there, and it's different. I'm like, oh, so as soon as I change the terrain, everything goes adjust, adjust, adjust from the ground up. So think of being on 2 feet even, and then suddenly I do this, or I do that, or I do this. Everything has to adjust all the way up. And I wake up all of those micro movements that are responsive and natural. So that's my fun suggestion, is to do something like that. Like maybe I get like a little makeup sponge or two, and I'm gonna stick it in my ballet shoe in a weird place and just do the bar. Maybe I wouldn't do in the center. And your students will probably think you're nuts at first. But if you go, you know what, when I train on a flat surface, it seems like a really great idea. Nothing's changing. I don't have to navigate through it. It's just I can always trust a nice flat surface. But that flat surface kills, if you want to be dramatic about, kills the responsiveness and the need of all the muscles above, because they're not adapting. They're not having to be resilient and adaptable on their little micro levels. So that would be an interesting thing to try. What would it be like? It might be fidgety, and you might like, oh my gosh, this takes time to go, okay, well, maybe just put the sponge in the supporting heel and then switch sides and put it in. But it would be fun, and it would be a big exploration. It would be a great way to introduce the idea of the fact that we were meant to navigate constant change. It's a great way to get rid of the hold mentality. We're not here to hold our spine, hold our posture, hold our curves. Just because you might have the curves, that they exist, doesn't mean you're using them. If I'm not in change and adaptability and resiliency, it confuses all systems. And I would even go so far as to say, when I hold my spine, it's really hard to keep breathing. And Gail, you'd mentioned earlier about core and stuff like that. If I'm not breathing, I can't use my core properly. I just can't. Okay, everything's meant to work with everything. And yes, practice balancing on yoga blocks, something like a mat or pillow. Oh, absolutely. Balance boards. I got some, well, like the big exercise balls, you know, those are great. I got a little seat one, you know, it's just a little squishy disc, you know, to keep my core alive while I'm working. That's great. You can stand on one of those. Anything that's about the students understanding that your body is brilliant at constant microscopic change, and that's what actually keeps your energy flowing. That's what keeps the force absorption and the energy return in proper balance, and that it's always changing. So you're going to give permission for things to keep changing, and that's a lot about your cues. So rethinking some of your cues and your imagery might be in order. Okay, yes, there's nice ones about the tree and the roots and all that, but most people think of a trunk as being pretty darn still. So you might want to talk about bamboo and that it's moving all the time, and say, I'm not going to say tree anymore just because I want to say roots. Or if you do want to say tree, you say, okay, everybody, I'm saying tree because I'd like to encourage the use of roots. I'm not encouraging the use of a trunk. And you've got to actually go that extra stage to go, hang on, don't use the same cue for everything, because everything's got its own abilities, its own responses all the time. It's not a one size fits all. Okay, so I might talk about bamboo, that it's always moving, and then you can say, and by the way, the wind is going all the time, and that's why bamboo survives, is because it thrived in a windy place. It's the thing that shows up there, right? And you can talk about that. So giving permission is huge for them to allow the movement, and rethinking. Well, really, I would just say it's a no hold zone. I don't use the word hold at all. I might say maintain or sustain or something like that, if I want something to sustain through time a little longer. Okay. Hope that all makes sense. Have fun with the idea of standing on different things. I think that's a really neat idea. I think it would be really confusing and really great. I did a workshop with a friend of mine all about calf muscles and the three-dimensional use of the calf muscles, and realized how much I think I've used my calf muscles fairly two-dimensionally, like they bend and they straighten, and not as much of the constant adjustments. And we've so demonized, rolling. It's like, yeah, but the muscles that roll, part of it, by the way, pronation is healthy and happens on every bend that you do. But that means that if I'm thinking of my heel this wide, some muscles are lengthening, some muscles are shortening, and therefore they're staying dynamic and elastic. It's all good. So anytime we can become three-dimensional, wakes all that up, keeps our curves going. I'm just going to check my notes to make sure I'm not missing something huge, right? And reminding you again, as we just kind of cycle to finish up here, about the positive self-talk, about the enjoyment of the body. Not just the enjoyment of the step or the movement or the overall motivation of, I know you're working hard and you can do it, keep jumping higher, whatever it is, but to go, what if I did that développé or grand rond de jambe, boom, and paid attention to my luscious spine moving and adapting the whole time? How that would be. That would feel great, maybe. And if it didn't feel great, you could say to them, do you think it's just that you need to be stronger? Or is there still a different mindset that could provide you with a feeling of suppleness and strength where you are right now? And to say, well, what if you wanted it right now? What could you do if you wanted it right now? And oftentimes then the students need to lower their legs a little bit, and they would do it of their own volition, okay? And they would breathe. So the things that we often bug them about, going, make sure you're breathing while dancing or smile while dancing, those two things would be like, well, wait a minute. Have we inadvertently taken away the permission to breathe? Or have we inadvertently taken away the joy of the movement itself? And therefore my smile disappears and my breathing disappears. How to bring it back. So rather than asking for it to come back, think of it as I'm removing the blocks that may have been put on there inadvertently. Okay. Now, before we wrap up, I'm just going to let you know, of course, next week, same time, same place, we're looking at the pelvis. I hope you can join me for that. If you can't, still register. And then I know you want the replay as an email. We'll be looking at the pelvis. And if you haven't heard of the word nutation for the sacrum, that'll rock your world, literally rock your world inside your pelvis. And it'll make it so you can squat like nobody's business and have healthy hips and knees for a lifetime. And it directly relates to this because, of course, your sacrum is part of this. So your homework, if you want to call it that, would be to be practicing the fact that I've got my natural deepening and lengthening. And yes, they lengthen a bit more when I rise, by the way. Okay. So the deepening and lengthening of your curves, allowing that to change, playing with changing terrain. That's kind of your homework that will help prepare you, and it'll make a great deal of sense what happens in the pelvis if you get this idea of the curves changing. Okay, so you can sign up for that. I haven't put the event out yet, and I will do that later today. I wanted the chance for people to sign up individually. It's interesting to me, even just from a marketing perspective, of what did I do that then found these people, and what did I do that then found these people? Okay. Also, I've made it as a free event because it's part of the end of my training here. Donations are welcome, of course. I know it looked weird. I heard this from a couple of people that it looked weird and grayed out, but the donation button actually still works. Not that you have to just say it does. And I've left it open for the week after, should that be something you want to do. And of course, thank you for attending. And I'll consider it wrapped up now. However, you are welcome to stay for comments or further questions. But for those of you that had to kind of go, this was a 2-hour workshop, it's 1:04, we got to go, then absolutely be on your way. That's fine. Happy to have had you. I will, however, keep the recording going for just a little bit more in case there's really good questions that other people want to hear the answers to. Okay, and I'll send you the recording when it comes through from Zoom. And thank you so much for your time and attention. I had fun. I hope you did too, and got some new ideas. And we can stop the lengthening, and let it become about the resiliency. All right. So yeah, thank you everybody. And